Hey everyone, we're going to be taking a look at Milwaukee's new M12 right angle impact driver today. It's got a 1/4 inch hex head chuck and a pretty compact design. It's got a long handle so you can reach into places and where it's confined space and get in there and drive screws, bolts, whatever that you can't do with a normal impact driver because the body's too long. If you look at the difference here, it's obvious this is going to be able to fit into a lot more places. It's not quite as comfortable to use as a regular impact driver, but sometimes awkward places necessitate sacrificing a little bit of comfort for actually getting the job done. So we'll take a closer look at this one, and I'm going to do some comparisons to its bigger brother, the M18 right angle impact driver that came out last year. So let's take a closer look. Alright, so here's the 1/4 inch hex head, and it's just got a little collet right here. You pull in and out. And it actually takes 1-inch bits, which is a really great deal since you're trying to minimize your depth in this dimension. So you just pull it out and it slides right in. And there's just a little nub left. It's almost like a drywall bit, but it's enough that it's not going to cam out. So this, I've driven quite a few screws with this and haven't had any problems with it, camming out with the Phillips head. So it's just enough of a nub with a 1-inch bit that it'll do a good job driving it. You can see here the trigger spans about 4 inches, and you can push it just about anywhere along there, and it'll activate. It's easier on this end because it's actually pivoting about this front point. This is one design change from the M18 impact driver, the right angle driver, that I didn't really like, because with the M18 version, you can see you can push here or here. The whole thing kind of floats and pivots about this center point. It's a little bit easier to deal with the front end, but normally you're not holding it up here because, first of all, the tool isn't balanced that well against this front point. It's more balanced for back here. So it's not a huge issue. It's just a little bit difference in the trigger. Here's your forward and reverse switch. They've actually improved this over the M18 version. The M18 version, it was a little bit hard to get your thumb all the way in there to get it all the way one way or the other. It would just end up locking, because if you have it in the middle, it locks. And then you've got reverse and forward. So it's ambidextrous. You can access it from both sides. And it's a little bit easier to operate than the previous M18 right angle impact driver. Right here is your fuel gauge. They've actually made it a little bit, they made the dots a little bit bigger than some of my other M12 fuel gauge buttons. But as you use it, it'll slowly lose its dots until it flashes at you and tells you it's out of charge. Up here in the front, they've got an LED that's actually angled out to about 2 inches from the head, so you can see where your screw is starting. It's good design on this one because you don't want to see the head just illuminated. You want to see where you're actually driving things. That's what you care about. So that's a good option. It's not adjustable, but hey, it's angled in the right spot. In the back here, you just got your standard port for an M12 battery. I prefer using the compact style with this, just because you're trying to reach into somewhere and drive something into this surface. You don't want a big battery pack sticking down or sticking up, getting in your way. So I actually prefer using the compact style. This is a 1.5 amp hour. The 2 amp hour is about the same footprint too. The motor on these is brushed. It's not brushless. It's not a fuel variant of the M12 system, but it's got plenty of power. In fact, this thing offers, let's see, it's 3,300 impacts per minute at 24, 25 RPM, max RPM. And it's adjustable, so you squeeze a little bit, squeeze a lot, and the speed is variable. I was really surprised when I looked at the specs. This one is 600 inch-pounds of max torque. This M18 version has 2 modes. Its max torque output is 675 inch-pounds. So it's only got 75 inch-pounds more on the M12 version. So bravo to Milwaukee engineers. I don't know how you manage that with an M12 tool, but this thing has a ton of torque for its size and for the M12 platform. As far as head dimensions on this go, it's got a depth from the chuck to the back of the head is 2¼ inches, and this little boot actually comes off. It's a non-marring boot, you know, if you don't want to scratch up your project or, you know, get it scuffed up. But if you take that off, you got a little bit more clearance here. This is a 1.4 diameter head, so you can get right up next to things, right up next to a, you know, a right angle that you're trying to get into, and then drill into the adjacent piece. So it's got the ability to reach in very tight places. So I already put this thing through an endurance test. I used Milwaukee's new Shockwave Impact Duty half-inch bit right here. It's got a hex shank right here, and it just fits right in. And I ended up with the 1.5 amp hour battery. That's the smallest M12 battery they have. I ran out of room on the first scrap piece of wood I had to start on my second one. I got 80 holes out of it, 80 half-inch holes through 2x material. And it was chugging right along, right up to the very last few. It slowed down a little bit for the last few, but for the most part it was full speed all the way through. And the impact driver itself got a little bit warm, but it didn't get too hot and it wasn't overheating. I could hold the front end of it, where the gearbox is, without any issues. It wasn't, you know, burning me or anything like that. It was just getting warm. So enough talk. Let's see how it does. I'll just run through a couple of these half-inch holes, and then I'll drive some screws. It's got pretty good depth setting ability. If you just use the variable speed trigger, it's easy to keep from overdriving the screws and sinking them too deep. Alright, here we go. Half-inch bit. We're going to drill some holes through some 2x material. You can see it's not really slowing down that much. It's a little bit slower than a drill because it's an impact driver. It's not meant to go quite as fast, but it can definitely get the job done drilling holes. And I'll do some close-ups so you can see screws being driven and the ability to control the depth of them. All right, I've just got some drywall screws here, and then I've got a couple of bigger number 12 3-inch screws. You can see the light illuminating really well right around the area we're driving it on. Got a little aggressive there. So you can set it perfectly flush. You can be unlike me and keep from marring your work surface with the bit. This can be a little bit more tricky to get it, you know, dead center, so you're not going to cam out like I just did, because it's a right angle impact driver. You can't really get the axial force quite as well lined up as you can with a regular impact driver. And here we go with the 3-inch screw. Go ahead and do this one. You can see it wasn't quite as fast as you know, a regular impact driver since it's only got the one speed, but it does pretty well. It doesn't take too long, and normally you aren't driving really long fasteners with a right angle impact driver because you don't have that much space. So wrapping up, I really like this M12 impact driver. It's a great addition to a toolbox, especially if you're already invested in the M12 kit. If you find yourself doing a lot of odd jobs that have tight clearances that you're driving screws into, this is a must-have tool. Otherwise, you might be able to get by with one of those right angle extensions, but they're never quite as good as the actual tool, purpose-designed tool. It's definitely got my recommendation. It's a quality, powerful tool from a quality brand. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe.